This season was a failure. Everybody needs to go see the lady. Ooh, and none of these couples got married. But it's for the best, I guess. Just go see the lady. Then you won't be on TV crying for just go see the lady. She'll show you that 1 + 1 does equal 2. Just go see the lady. Oh, y'all should've broke up on the honeymoon. Just go see the lady. It might be time for Love is Blind to be through. Ooh.
Listen, Netflix and Kinetic. Matter of fact, I'm gonna talk to y'all like we're friends. Nakisha and Katisha. Baby, y'all know that finale could have been a cute little 15 minutes. Let's talk about it.
Roxiie says we're gonna talk about it.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Roxiie with Roxiie Says, and we're gonna talk about it. Today, we are reviewing Love is Blind Season 9, Episodes 11 and 12, the finale. Are we surprised about... Let's get right into it. But before we do, please don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you're made aware every time I post a new video. And don't forget to hype this video up. Thank you so much. So let's get right into it, okay? So as episode 11 opens up, we see that Alli and Anton are in better spirits and they're enjoying their time together. Edmond is happily massaging KB's feet. Jordan and Meg go see a lady, not the lady, a lady for a spiritual reading. And she tells them that they are soulmates. And I said, I hope that reading was free, baby. I hope it was free. So next we see Madison on the phone and she's crying and she says that Joe left her. He had a breakdown after the tux fitting and he told her that she is not his person. And if they go to the altar, he's gonna say no. And I said, whoo. So we see them have a little talk and he tells Madison that the fitting was his breaking point. And I'm like, yep, because he was faking it for so long, it finally took his toll. That other personality that I've been talking about jumped out and said, this, okay? We got to get up out of here. So of course, Madison is devastated by this because she just happily got fitted for her wedding dress only to get dumped by Joe. And she says that she needs him to give her a reason because she's confused as to why he's dumping her. And I'm like, Madison, have you not been in this relationship that we've been watching? You're in it. We're just watching. Have you not witnessed Joe's behavior? In your opinion, his behavior thus far has been that of someone who you think wants to marry you? Or someone who likes you or loves you, and you feel like he treats you the way that you would want your husband to treat you? Really, Madison? Okay, I hate that she's actually asking Joe in this scene, what's missing? What's wrong? As if there's something that she should change so that Joe will be with her. And Joe can't give her any reason other than it's just not right. And she's like, all right, but what is it about me, baby? I hated this for Madison. Absolutely hated it. But she's saying how embarrassing this is for her. Madison, you should be jumping for joy that you found this out before y'all got married. Some people don't find this out until after they've been married for years, okay? And as much as I cannot stand Joe, I was happy that he didn't embarrass you at the altar because we're gonna see some things at that altar, okay? Wouldn't that have been worse and more embarrassing? You're too caught up in how y'all look to other people and you're not focused enough on the treatment that you've been getting from Joe, okay? So she's asking if it's because he wants to get with another single from the pods. And she's like, so you're fine with me being with someone else? You're okay with that? You're okay with like us not sleeping together or cuddling ever again? Like you're fine with that? What if we just dated in the real world? You know, maybe you're just freaked out with the timeline. Madison, stop this, okay? Child, Joe tells her we actually made it further in this experience than we would have in the real world. I said, ugh. Ouch, baby. Because Joe knows that he wouldn't have had any interest in Madison because he's already told us and her that he is more attracted to smaller women. And baby, the way that I would have fast forwarded through this entire conversation if I didn't have to take notes, I was cringing the entire time. And watching Madison beg Joe was pissing me all the way off. But Joe keeps telling her it's just not right. Girl, rejection is protection. And you know what? I don't think that I can call Joe a homosexual anymore. I don't think I can because you know what? A real one who is true to their craft would have taken this all the way to the altar easily. So here is my public apology to Joe. Now you're something, sir. You are something, but a homosexual you are not. All right. I feel like Joe was like, look, times are tough and I need a place to stay, but girl, you could keep your condo because this is too much for me even, all right? So Madison is crying and she's telling Joe that she can literally feel her heart breaking. And Joe was like, hey, I don't think we should drag this out any longer. I'm sorry, okay? Child, did y'all see when Madison was crying and Joe started yawning and he had to play it off? Baby girl, he don't care, all right? She's upset that he doesn't care. She wants him to hug her and hold her. And instead of observing his behavior and it registering to her like, oh, thank you, Joe, for showing me that you are not the person for me, she's trying to make him feel bad that she can't get some type of physical connection from him, because we know that physical touch is everything to Madison. And at this point, as much as I don't like Joe, if he had just got up and said, hey girl, I'm sorry, but I don't want to keep having this conversation, and left her there crying, I wouldn't even be mad, because at this point, girl, he made it clear, let it go, okay? But when this conversation is done, we get Joe in a confessional saying that he feels relieved, and he says he feels like a weight has been lifted off of his shoulders. He also says that he truly came here for love, but as time went on, it got harder and harder for him to picture himself at the wedding and having a family with Madison, and he knows that he would have been miserable, okay? So before Joe leaves, Madison tells him that she's happy that she went through this experience with him, and she thanks him for being a part of her journey. They hug and she breaks down. She keeps crying in his arms, and she tells him that he will always have a place in her heart. And do you think that Joe returned the same sentiment? Of course not. Joe says bye as he's walking out the door, okay? Now, what did I tell y'all in my last review? Joe was like, this girl is crazy. I'm treating her like trash and she still wants to marry me. So I got to make the move and break it off with her because she's not going to do it. And I'm happy that he did. Hopefully Madison watches this back and she learns something from this, okay? Because I'm sure that Madison is grieving the idea of her finding her forever person, especially with the condition that she's living with, right? So I get that she feels more of a sense of pressure to find that life partner. But baby, that does not mean that you should be with anyone, Madison. That's not what that means. And I feel like she overlooked way too much with Joe. And hopefully in the future, she recognizes those red flags should they appear in her next relationship. All right. So next we see KB and Edmond. We see KB and Edmond. They're riding out on a snowmobile and Edmond is sitting in the back, just like I thought he would be. Just like I thought he would be. So they get off of the snowmobile and KB goes into the little shed or whatever to get them some hot chocolate. And I was like, well, damn, KB had to drive y'all up in the snowmobile and she got to get the hot chocolate. What do you do, Edmond? If a bear comes, is she going to have to fight the bear off too? And I kid you not, when she gave him the hot chocolate and then she was trying to step down to take a seat, I literally said, is he going to help her down? She has a cup of hot chocolate in her hand. Is he going to like assist her down? And as soon as I said that, KB was like, thanks for helping me down, in a very sarcastic tone. And I'm like, yeah, KB, you don't like Edmond, but we knew this already. We've been Okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's keep going, okay? And I know that a lot of y'all like Edmond, and I think that he is a sweet person. He seems like a fun person, but as a partner, as a husband in a relationship with a grown-ass woman, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, and we're going to get into that more later, okay? Unless you are looking for a man who you want to mother and you want to feel like you have a little son, because some people like that. Some people like that, and if that's your steez, Edmond is your guy, but that's not the type of guy who KB wants, and he proves that to her every single day, but she been knew this, okay? So child, when they finally sit down, KB starts going in and she lets him know that in the car, he was super quiet and he was dismissive, but as soon as the cameras came on, he's all happy-go-lucky like nothing happened. And now he wants to take pictures and she calls him out for not being the same person on camera as he is off camera. She also says that he's a whole a-hole and he says a-hole things. And then when the cameras are on, he's all baby, 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 baby. So then she looks standoffish on camera because she's still upset about what he said. And all we see is the aftermath that begun with him being an a-hole in the car, okay? So KB does another rundown of events and she says that when the cameras were off, Edmond was upset about the theme of the bachelor party and he was like, no, I'm not wearing this, I'm not doing that. And KB says that she was trying to calm him down, but before she could even finish talking, he started speaking over her and he says he's not being dismissive and he's not sorry and he's not apologizing for it. And KB says that she's been trying her best to effectively communicate with Edmond, but he makes it so difficult and she's tired. She starts crying and she says, I can't force you to want to grow up. She also says that she fell in love with the pod version of Edmond and the version of Edmond on the first couple of days on the honeymoon, but that is not the Edmond who she has now. Like I said before, Edmond gives childish and KB should have dumped him on the honeymoon when he tried to use manipulation and coercion to get her to sleep with him. because that is what happened. But KB tells him, look, I'm here for you, but I will not accept you when you're dismissing my feelings. She says, look, if we have issues, I can get over it if you acknowledge it and you're accountable and you apologize, but I cannot get over it when you just pretend that shit didn't happen. So Edmond says, look, I've done nothing wrong to you, and I'm sorry if you take it that way, but I'm just out here trying to enjoy this beautiful view. And I'm like, not you dismissing her after she just told you that you were being dismissive. How can she enjoy this view now if you know that y'all had a disagreement in the car before y'all got to this view? How? Right? And then she says that Edmond told her before they got out of the car that he didn't want to speak to her. And you know what? I believe everything that KB said because Edmond didn't deny it. Edmond didn't say, I ain't never said that. What are you talking about? You're lying. So I believe that Edmond did tell her in the car before they got there, right? Don't speak to me. And now that they're out here, he's like, hey, let's enjoy this view. No, baby, that's not how that go. That's not how that go. And now Edmond is saying that KB was yelling at him. And at this point in the conversation, KB was not yelling at Edmond. What he is doing is making her come off as aggressive just because she's stating her opinion. She wasn't yelling at him in this part of the conversation. She was not yelling at him. Was she speaking in a stern tone? Yes. Was she calling him out? Yes. But was she yelling when he said it? She was not yelling. Go back and watch. I wish that KB hopped right back on that snowmobile and let his ass walk down the mountain. Okay. So KB keeps talking about her feelings and Edmond keeps trying to only talk about the view. And I can only imagine how frustrating it is to be with someone who you already know the viewers are going to watch with a lens of extra sympathy. And then they're saying things to you off camera and acting a different way on camera. And then we already know how Black women are portrayed on these shows. So I'm sure that KB is trying to choose her words and her actions very carefully so that she does not have stereotypes placed on her. And then we get Edmond pushing buttons and saying that she was yelling when we know that she was not yelling. Okay, so they keep arguing about Edmond not apologizing. And at this point, I'm like, okay, KB, so what is it that you want? Do you want him to apologize so that y'all can stay together? Because we know you don't want that. Right? We know you don't want that. So do you want him to apologize as a power move? Like, what is it? Because if he apologizes, but you've already noticed a pattern, because this is what you're saying, then what is the point and why are you still with him? Why are we still going in circles with this? What's the point? Because you need that bonus at the altar, right? Okay. Yeah, that's what I've been asking for how many reviews now? How much is the bonus, baby? Because that's the only thing that's keeping you here, baby girl. So while he's trying to explain himself, KB then cuts him off and she tells him that she doesn't want the apology anymore. KB girl, this is dumb, baby. This is dumb, all right? But child, the argument escalates and then KB says, and now she's yelling, now her voice is definitely heightened and she says, stop fucking talking to me, bitch. Now, I say this every single time we have a situation like this, whether it's Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, Love Island, okay? I do not believe in people calling their partners out of their names, especially during an argument, okay? Don't be calling your man no bitch, and don't call your girl a bitch either. Just don't do it. I feel like when a relationship is at a point where y'all are calling each other out of y'all names in anger, baby, the relationship is done. The relationship is done. I already told y'all KB doesn't respect Edmond because of how she speaks to him. And although I don't think that you should ever call your partner a bitch, sometimes partners do act like bitches. Sometimes partners do act like that, and I can understand feeling like that. But it should stay in your head. You don't say it, baby. You don't say it, okay? And KB starts going off and telling Edmond he's taking her out of character. He cuts her off all the time and it's annoying. And at this point, I'm annoyed with you, KB. Your character is your responsibility to maintain. As much as he pisses you off, y'all are both adults. And KB, no one is forcing you to be with Edmond, baby. So like I've been asking, how much is the bonus? Why are we dragging this out knowing that you're not gonna marry him? What are we doing? Ain't enough social work in the world is gonna make this work, baby. So we see Edmond walking away at the end of this conversation. And I was truly hoping that that was the last time that we saw him and KB together on our screens because, baby, y'all can't do this every day. I am drained just by watching y'all. All right. So next we see Alli and her mom waiting for Anton, but he appears to be running late. But they're having a conversation that's very emotional for Alli because apparently her and her sister, one of her sisters, have a strained relationship. But Alli wants her to be at the wedding, even though she doesn't support her decisions in doing this show. And although Alli has two other sisters, she really wants the support of this sister in particular. And she's hoping that if she meets Anton, then she'll support their union. Child, that sounds like a mess. And I always say this, maybe because I'm an only child, but we have seen seasons of Love is Blind where people put so much weight onto the opinion of their siblings. And I don't get it. Remember last season, that little situation we had with Dave?
I call my sister and I ask ask her, what should I wear today? I call my sister and I ask her, can I go out and play? Yeah, my sister and my friends, yeah, they live in my head. Ow!
Yeah, a mess. So anyway, Anton arrives and he tells Alli's mom that he's a teacher and he also has a small real estate company that he's expanding, which is interesting because a bit later we're going to hear some other business ventures that he also has in mind, all right? But he tells Alli's mom that he believes in tradition and he will be there to support Alli financially as she finishes her master's, but he wants them to be in a true partnership. Then Alli's mom says that a big reason for divorce is a man choosing to party and hang out with his friends over spending time with his wife. And yes, this is true, but I'm like, was this Alli using her mom in a passive aggressive way to tell Anton, hey, stop hanging out with your friends. You're not going to be able to do that because, girl, if he wants to hang out with his friends, he going to hang out with his friends. It don't matter what your mama say. So make sure you know who you're marrying. All right. But child, Alli's mom pretty much says that if Alli is choosing to be your wife, she should stay at home and she shouldn't work. Essentially, that's what I got from what Alli's mom was saying. I had to rewind it 3 times because I was like, girl, this ain't 19 whatever, okay? In this day and age, to tell your daughter to give up her means to support herself and put her life in the hands of someone else is horrible advice. Horrible and dangerous advice, okay? But at least we see that Alli has some sense, and she says that that is where her and her mother disagree often because Alli is about her money and she about your money. We already know that about her, okay? But ultimately, the conversation goes well, and Alli's mom gives Anton and Alli her blessing, all right? So next we see Jordan and Megan. They're getting custom hats made, and I thought that this was a really cute day. This is definitely something I would do, but we see that they're both excited for the wedding day, and when this scene started, I thought, wow, these two really look comfortable together. You can see that they've grown closer. They looked like a real couple, right? So we see them sit down for a chat, and Megan tells Jordan that she saw another house today, and although it was in a great school district, it wasn't the right one. And I thought, well, that's nice. That at least shows that she's thinking of Luca while she's looking for a house. Hopefully she's also thinking about Jordan's budget too, okay? But she then tells him that she's into numerology, and that's what she's using to help guide her into picking the right home. And she says that she links the number of the home to what the home will represent during that period in her life. She then says that she wants their home to be the life of the party home. And Jordan looked really bothered when she said that. So she starts trying to course correct. And she's like, well, not the life of the party, but just a place where family would like to gather. And Jordan says, okay, well, this all seems pretty woo-woo. And you can see all over his face that this conversation did something for him, but in a negative way. He almost looked afraid of Meg. He was looking at her like, you know, he looked kind of scared. So then they start talking about his tuxedo, and we learned that although Jordan told Meg that he wouldn't do color, he would stick with a black tux. He liked the tux that he tried on, and Nick Lachey told him that although it's y'all's wedding day, it's also his wedding day. So he went with the suit that he wanted, and I agree. I feel like as long as y'all are coordinated to some extent, let people wear what they want to wear, okay? And I was like, Megan, you better not start crying over this tux color, okay? Because we've seen you crash out over foolishness in the past as well. But they move along in their conversation, and Megan says that her favorite thing about Jordan is seeing him be a good dad, but her least favorite thing about him is that she feeds off of his energy. So if he's not happy, she's not happy. Then they start discussing work, but apparently that is something that Jordan does not want to talk about. He says, oh, you know, I don't want to bore you with work. That's why I don't talk about it. And Megan is like, yeah, but you're not boring me. I want to hear about it. And he says, no, I don't want to talk about that. Haven't I been telling y'all that as much as I like Jordan and how he communicates, in some situations that he be straight up lying, and he does things in a way where you have to ask him a question 50 million times to get the truth from him? Have I not been saying that? Down to how many bedrooms you got in your apartment, down to him saying that he only has a couple of tattoos when he knows that he is sleeved up and down, right? Now this woman wants to hear about your job, and you're flipping it and saying that you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to bore her, but she's telling you she wants to hear about it, and you're like, no, I don't want to talk about that. What's the issue? I don't like that shit, Jordan. That shit is weird, and he's gonna piss me off even more in the next episode. Oh, baby, we gonna get to it, okay? We gonna get to it. But Jordan was acting so strange in this conversation, and then he quickly changes the subject, and he says, I love you so much. They share a kiss, and that was it. What the hell does Jordan do for work? Is Jordan I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it next. So we see Edmond and he's pulling up with a bouquet of flowers for KB. He apologizes for ignoring her and he admits that he was telling the driver to speak to him instead while KB was trying to speak to him when they were in the car. I said, excuse me? Would that not piss y'all off? Is that not rude as hell? No, it's not. Okay, and to think that that's what he did in the car, and then when they got on the mountain, he talking about, I'm just trying to enjoy this view. Where the hell are y'all finding these people for Love is Blind, baby? Because between Edmond, Joe, and Jordan, someone needs to be fired or sued or something, okay? Because what is going on? Baby, I swear to you, I wrote in my notes, KB is about to break up with this dude. In this scene, the way that she was looking at him as Edmond was apologizing, she was just looking at him, just nodding, not saying anything. I was like, oh, she gonna break up with him as soon as he finishes this little speech, okay? So he apologizes for minimizing her emotions, and he acknowledges that she has many reasons why she should be breaking up with him, and she would be justified in doing so. And I said, okay, he's admitting it. Good job, Edmond. And KB is looking at him like, don't do that pity party for yourself. I don't want to hear it because I know what you're trying to do. So KB says that there was a moment on the mountain yesterday where she wanted to take her ring off. And at this point, she doesn't know if she has anything else to give. And Edmond says, look, there's no one else that I would want to do this with other than you. And look how far we've made it. Yeah, y'all made it far, but it's just time passing by. Y'all aren't growing in y'all relationship. Y'all keep arguing about the same thing. All that's passing by is time. That's it. Y'all don't have any business being together. And the both of y'all know it. So Edmond says that KB is changing him into the best man that he's ever been. And KB says, oh my gosh, with this flowers and this apology, you just gave me hope. You gave me so much hope, baby. And she gives him props for being a big boy and communicating without having his phone in his hand or trying to have a serious conversation from across the room. Hercules, good for you, Edmond. But KB, how many times are we going to do this? This is why they're calling you an actress, sis. You were going to take your ring off on the mountain, and now today he brought you some flowers and all is good. KB, we know that you don't want to be with Edmond. We know it. Like, wrap this shit up, okay? Because at this point, I was like, look, if y'all stay together, this is going to be a relationship where you're constantly having to teach him something, show him something, and Edmond is going to constantly be apologizing or telling you what he's not about to apologize for. This is absolute madness, okay? But she says she hasn't cursed anyone out in years, and she doesn't want to behave like that when she's communicating, and she apologizes to him. But I'm happy she apologized because Edmond deserved that apology, and KB was dead ass wrong for calling him a bitch. Don't call people out their names, y'all. Don't do that, okay? Next, we see Anton leaning on a tree in the middle of the woods, and he's saying that his love for Alli is beautiful and timeless, and he can't wait to spend the rest of his life with her and for them to build each other up. And he tells Alli that she better not break his heart, and Alli said, what heart? What heart? Side note, did y'all see Alli's boots, girl? Did you know where y'all were going? Because why you got on these hitting keels, walking up a damn mountain? I know that you're channeling your inner Mariah Carey, but girl, you could have slipped and broke your neck, sis. So after they sit down, we see Alli and Anton. They're telling each other that they feel so similar. They almost feel like they're twins. And I was like, twins? Since when? Y'all seem so different to me, right? Then Anton says something very interesting. He says, after you get married, you can only change for the better. You can't change for the worse. And I says who? Because marriage isn't a switch that just magically changes people. It's something you have to work on, right? But Anton says that he is determined not to give up on his marriage, and no one will be perfect, but the effort that you put into it is what you'll get out. That's facts, okay? But Alli says that there's a fine line between working on something and sticking around for something that just isn't meant to be. And I'm with her on that because what Anton is saying has me wondering if he's one of those people who feel like, look, it don't matter what's going on. It don't matter what I say. It don't matter what I do. We are in this for life. No, sir. No, sir. And that goes both ways. If Anton is with Alli and he's like, look, we've tried. We've done the counseling. We've done blah, 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 and it's not working. I'm unhappy. He should be allowed to leave that relationship as well. But I do agree with Anton in the sense that as long as both people are working at it and both people want to be together and they're equally invested in the betterment and the progression of their relationship, they're both emotionally available, they're both being loyal and trustworthy and all of those things, then I think it can definitely work. But it's not just gonna happen. It takes work, okay? So next we see KB and Edmond. Oh my gosh, these two are rollerblading. And the scene started off really fun. They were having a great time. And I was thinking, look, if these two start discussing an argument that they had previously off camera, baby, I'm turning it off. I am turning it off because it's like all y'all do when the cameras are off is beef with each other, okay? But in Edmond's confessional, he tells us that him and KB are currently the best that they have ever been and they're enjoying this time before the wedding. And in KB's confessional, she says that she's really proud of the progress that her and Edmond have made because despite the numerous times that they could have thrown the towel in, they stuck together and that shows that love conquers all. And in my notes, I literally wrote, good for them. I got nothing else for these two. Nothing else for these two. Okay, so next we see Megan and Jordan. They're at their place and the vibe is very awkward. They're not really saying much to each other. And Megan starts going in and she says that it's like pulling teeth trying to have a conversation with Jordan because he's just giving her one-word answers, which isn't very stimulating. And I'm here wondering if it's because of the conversation that they had earlier with the numerology and their house being a party house and blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, damn, did Megan slap Luca across the face? Because remember, he said that's all... That is the only thing that would stop him from marrying Megan. But now it seems like the vibe is off. And he tells her that he doesn't know what to say, right? He also tells her that when she asks for communication, she does it in an abrasive way. And this is something that we have seen him say before. And we have seen Megan be abrasive before, but that is not the vibe that I got in this conversation. So Jordan tells Megan that she isn't compassionate towards his situation. And she also told him that she doesn't like when he says he's tired and that bothers him. But Megan feels like she is exhausted as well, but she feels like Jordan uses it as an excuse. And Jordan says, look, it's not an excuse. I'm actually tired. We're not in the same boat because your boat is way bigger than mine, and that's okay. Then Jordan tells her that he doesn't want to project his daily stressors on Megan. But once again, Megan tells Jordan that she wants to be involved or at least be able to discuss what he does for work, especially since it's such a huge part in his day-to-day life. Jordan, do you work for the CIA or something? Like, are you in the Secret Service? What is it giving? But Megan says that she feels like she's grasping at straws to have a conversation with him. And he says, well, sometimes I just want to sit and watch a movie. I don't want to talk. Megan says that she fell in love with Jordan for their conversation, right? So to come out of the pods where we have been having constant conversation to now be in the real world and you don't want to speak, this is like night and day. It's a complete 180. And I feel like these are valid concerns because how are y'all supposed to get married, but he doesn't want to have conversations with you about work or anything else it's looking like. And Jordan says, this isn't the pods and it's my goal to get to the level one day where I don't have to work as hard as you. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jordan. He also says that he has a super demanding job and the last thing that he wants to do at the end of the day is have an abrasive conversation. But why are you assuming that the conversation is going to be abrasive if you're just coming home and chatting about your day? You get what I'm saying? And then he tells Megan that she makes him feel unappreciated. Jordan, I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit because I'm sure you might be tired after a day's work, but so tired that you can't have any conversation. Any type of conversation. And we already know that Jordan gives out information in a trickle truth type of way. He did it in the past and that's what he's doing with this job. Where do you work, Jordan? What's the issue? Okay. But I will say in this conversation, he did look drained and he tells Megan that he needs her to be his backbone and not something that makes him more tired. Excuse me? Megan, you should have left him there like, oh, I make you tired? I make you tired? Okay, well now you can get all the sleep you need because I'm gone, baby. But Jordan says that he might always be tired. And Megan is like, okay, well, I understand that your job is taxing and you have Luca, but what about the times when we're just sitting and there's no TV or anything? Are we supposed to just sit here in silence and stare at each other and not speak? And Jordan says, yes, sometimes. And I think that you need to compromise on that. And what Megan is saying doesn't sound crazy to me. She says, hey, when you come home from work, I just want to have a conversation with you. How was your day? Ask me how my day was, right? Tell me who was the a-hole that pissed you off. That's conversations that most of us have with our partners at the end of the day, right? I feel like that's normal and not asking for too much. But Megan tells him that one day she can be in LA and then the next day she might want to go to Aspen and then have a girls' night out in Italy somewhere and she's always on the go. But Jordan tells her that life won't be like that when she has kids and she's gonna need to slow down a little bit. And he's also like, look, I know you can afford a nanny and stuff, but I don't really want a nanny raising our kids. Y'all are in two different worlds, baby. I know they say opposites attract, but I do not think that it's gonna work for these two. Okay, well, I know it's not gonna work because but at this point I'm like, it's not gonna work for these two. Jordan is so focused on Legos and Luca, as he should be, and Megan is focused on playing tennis at 10 a.m. just because she can. And I love that for her. And Jordan wants Megan to understand understand how different life would be when there's a child involved. Vacations become a chore, he says, and he just wants to make sure that Megan is ready for all of those changes. So we see that Megan is trying to lighten the mood with a joke, and Jordan asks her what she did with all her money because she clearly didn't spend it on joke school. Jordan is jealous. Jordan is jealous of Megan's money, okay? And I see Megan's money just becoming a bigger and bigger deal in their relationship when she's doing things that he can't afford to do. Or she can afford to do things for Luca that Jordan can't. The writings are all over the wall, all right? So Megan tells Jordan that she's worked her behind off to have the lifestyle and flexibility that she wants. And although she understands that marriage is about compromise, she doesn't think that it should be a complete lifestyle overhaul. And I think that both of y'all knew this in the pods. Like I said in previous reviews, Megan knew that she did not want to date no man with children, okay? And Jordan knew that being with a woman who's balling would be a struggle for him as well. He thought it would be a plus, but now seeing that he won't be able to keep up with her lifestyle, it's an issue. And Megan tells Jordan that it would be nice for him to actually court her, get her flowers, plan a date. And she's like, you say you like nice restaurants and you say you like to do this and that, but I couldn't tell because all I see you do is work, go to the gym, and hang out with Luca. And Jordan is saying that he can do all of those things. He just doesn't have time. So like I asked before, what made you look at your current situation, right, and your current life and say, I need a wife? I have time for a wife. I can add a woman into this equation because I'm sure that your life and your schedule hasn't drastically changed from the time that you started this show to now, right? You had the same job, the same Luca, the same responsibilities, the same amount of hours in your day. So you knew that you wouldn't have time to actually be a fiance or a husband, right? How did you have the time to do Love is Blind if you don't even have the time to go on a damn date? How you had the time to do this? Because you were looking for a nanny. Like I said, you're not looking for a partner to spend time with and to learn and to grow with. You are looking for help because you don't even have time to spend with her as far as you're saying, right? And I'm also not understanding that because don't you co-parent with Luca's mom? So what are you doing on the days that you don't have Luca? Y'all can't go out then? And this conversation is so weird because like I've said before, I like how Jordan used to handle conflict, but in this conversation, the vibe I get is like, hey, I have to work because I have way less money than you and I'm insecure about it. And oh, I don't have any time to go out either. And the time that I do have when I come home, I don't want you to talk to me and I don't want to tell you about my job. What the hell are we doing here? And who the hell is signing up for this? Who? More about this in a few. All right. So now we are on to the finale episode. We see that the weddings are a day away and we are at these daytime bachelor and bachelorette parties. If you've been following me, you already know how I feel about these whack ass parties that they have at 3 p.m. on a random Tuesday afternoon. Okay. But I did love the setting. You know, they're in the mountains. So everyone had on their cute little ski gear. Everyone looked nice. So we see the ladies chatting with their friends and Megan is telling her girls that she doesn't want to have to travel alone and she wants to enjoy experiences with Jordan. Okay. Well, girl, he can't afford it. He can't afford it, okay? So girl, you're gonna have to change your name from Sparkle Meg or Sparkly Freaky Meg to Trickin' Meg. That's the only way that it's gonna work, okay? And even her friends ask her, is the issue Jordan or is the issue a change in your lifestyle? And they tell her that they're actually fearful that she will say yes because of Luca. But another friend says that she can possibly say yes and her and Jordan and Luca can create a beautiful blended family. No one knows what the future holds, okay? Ciao. Next we see Alli's friend asking her about Anton's finances because in their culture, it is the norm for the man to provide for the family. They're just not sure to what extent Anton will be able to do that at. But Alli tells them that Anton makes really good money. And then she says, well, not really good money, but he makes good money. And her friends are like, are you sure? Because you said that he's a truck driver. And a lot of women would look down on that, especially a woman of your caliber. You know what I thought of when I was watching this scene? Have y'all seen Daddy's Little Girls? Remember when Gabrielle was having the talk with Joan? I'm about to call her Joan. Y'all know who I'm talking about. When she was having a talk with her friends and she was like, oh, Monty he's my driver. And there was like a driver. That is the vibe that I got from this whole conversation. So clearly her friends are not feeling Anton's profession at all. But Alli says that she's okay with it because he has goals beyond being a truck driver. He wants to open up a barber shop and a restaurant. And her homegirl was like, okay, well, he has a lot of potential, but it's also a possibility that he just gonna be a truck driver forever. Because remember, when speaking to her mom, he was talking about real estate. Now Alli's talking about a barbershop and a restaurant. And granted, it's possible that he does all three, all four, and he's successful at all of it. But it's also a possibility that he doesn't do any of that, okay? And I keep repeating the same thing. I want to hear the conversation that Alli and Anton had in the pods. I want to know if he sold her a dream or if he told Alli what it is and she's just banking on the potential, okay? And the way that I cracked up when her friend said, look, we're both about to be divorced. We just want to save you from making the same mistake. I was cracking up because they're like, look, girl, we're trying to save you, okay? But they do tell her that she needs to marry him for who he is right now, because potentially that is who he will be forever. So don't get married and expecting him to magically change after y'all say I do, okay? Now on the men's side, we see Anton telling his friends that Alli might not be the best with money. She might not cook or clean, but at the same time, she has other attributes that he values more than those things. And he's willing to take a leap of faith and he's going to say yes at the altar. He just doesn't know if she will. And I feel the same way with Anton. If you are cool with marrying a grown woman who is bad with money, who doesn't clean up after herself and who doesn't cook for herself, and you marry her that way, do not expect her to change when y'all get married, okay? But did y'all see how the editors knew to make that little bachelorette party scene no longer than like 4 minutes, because they knew not to waste our time with that foolishness, okay? So it is time for the first wedding, and we have Alli and Anton, and y'all know how they do all the wedding preparation. We have all these conversations with all these people. We'll just touch on the important stuff. So we see Alli chatting with her friends as she gets her makeup done, and she lets them know that she's not going to put too much stock in the information that Lil Miss 4 months gave her, because she's only been with her man for 4 months, okay? And she says that she also hasn't seen any of that behavior in the past few weeks. So, okay, Anton hasn't gone to the strip club in the past few weeks, and I'm like, okay, that has to be what you're talking about, because I know you're not talking about the drinking, because y'all just argued about that. And Alli, duh, of course you have not seen him go to the strip club in the past few weeks when he's trying to get you to marry him, girl. But I will say that the way that Anton has been speaking, right, leading up to the wedding, it did sound like he was ready to take that next step and leave the partying and drinking behind, or at least minimize it a bit, okay? That is what it sounded like, at least. But Alli's mom said straight up that she's afraid because he drinks alcohol and in their family they don't drink. And Alli was like, girl, I drink alcohol and I think that he deserves some grace for it. But Alli's mom wasn't trying to hear any of that. And I found this interesting because I'm like, this is a completely different tune that we're seeing Alli sing from a couple of days ago, right? She was very worried about his drinking, and now she doesn't seem as worried at all. And I'm like, what happened here? Did he show you one of his accounts? Huh? Because now it's giving, okay, he might drink a little, but I mean, that money's right. That's what it's giving, because baby, it's night and day with how you're talking about Anton's drinking, okay? Meanwhile, we see Anton's mom come and give him a nice little pep talk. She calms him down. She gives him her blessings, and she lets him know that today will be perfect. In this scene, his mom was helping him tie his tie, and I thought that that was so sweet, so cute. I'm like, as long as he don't curse his mama out and run up out of here like Joe did to his friend at the tux fitting, everything will be all right. She tells him, look, if Alli says no, it is what it is. Whatever it's gonna be is what it's gonna be. And when Anton's mom, Natalia, goes and speaks with Alli and her mom, Vanette, she lets Alli know how beautiful she looks, and she asks her how she feels about Anton, and they both get very emotional when speaking about him. But Alli reassures Natalia that she raised an amazing son and she loves him very much. And it was really nice to see this conversation. But I feel like Anton's mom went over there to try to gauge how Alli felt about the situation, because she's like, girl, look, don't have my son go up to that altar and you embarrass him and hurt him in front of all these people, okay? Let me know what it's gonna be now. So, child, we see Alli's 3 sisters arrive, and she's chatting and hugging the 2 who I assumed are the ones who she has a good relationship with. And then we see the 3rd sister standing in the back with a very unpleasant expression. And I'm like, oh, child, this must be the sister, okay? But her sister's name is Naria, and she says, look, no matter what happens here, I'm not gonna like it. And I don't approve of any of this. I don't approve of it. And I'm like, girl, if this was the energy you were gonna come with, you could have stayed your ass home. You could have stayed your ass right at home, because this energy is horrible and it's negative, okay? But she also tells her sister, look, I love you very much and I want the best for you because you're my best friend. So if walking down the aisle and marrying this guy makes you happy, hey, I want you to do what makes you happy because I love you that much. Girl, like I said, you could have just left out the beginning part and just said this, because anyway, I know it's good for the drama. We enjoy it, but child, we see it's time for the wedding, and Alli walks down the aisle with her mom and her stepdad. And as she was walking down the aisle, the way that her and Anton were smiling at each other, I was like, hold on a minute. These 2 just might get married now. Okay, they look very much in love. So they say their vows, and even the vows seemed very sweet and promising as well. I already knew that they were going to ask Anton first because he's been saying up and down for the last couple of episodes that he's definitely saying yes. And I know that they always do that dramatic pause, but baby, Anton's pause had me kind of shook for real. But ultimately he says yes. And baby, the way that I had to hit pause and turn off the closed caption before Alli answered, because you know that sometimes the closed caption, the words come on the screen before the words come out their mouth and ruin everything. But baby, the look on everyone's face, including Alli, let me know what it was before she even said it, child. She told Anton that she cannot be his wife. Cannot be his wife. She's shaking her head and she says, look, the man that I fell in love with in the pods is not the man that I have been experiencing out of the pods. And she apologizes and she's crying and she leaves an emotional Anton at the altar. There's a little girl in the audience and she's crying too. Love is Blind loves to show us a little girl crying at a wedding after someone has gotten rejected at the altar. All the time, okay? I feel like deep down, Alli Ben knew when she saw how he was drinking that it wasn't gonna work for her. And I feel like that, on top of him not being where she wants him to be financially, was a deal breaker for her. Child, as Alli's family is comforting her, we see someone in Anton's family calling her a cold-hearted fucking bitch. I said, damn. And good thing they were far away, because that one friend that Alli has, the one who was, saying, oh, he's a truck driver and blah, blah, blah. I get the vibe that she's the type of friend where if they were close enough and she heard it, she's the type to be like, excuse me, what was said? That's what she gives, okay? And I'm also still here asking, what was the bonus for them to make it to the altar? Because I feel like Alli knew way before this that she was going to say no to Anton. But ultimately, she did make the right decision for the both of them. I feel like Anton needs to be with a woman who he can party and drink with, because it seems to me like that is more so what he wants to do, as opposed to the altar boy image that he sold Alli while in the pods. I think that eventually they would have resented each other for all of the changes that they wanted each other to make. And like I said before, I do feel like Anton did want to cut back on the strip clubs and the partying and step into more of a husband role. But I still think that he wants to be able to drink and party and have fun to some extent. And I didn't see Alli giving him any type of leeway to do that. But there are plenty of women who will be fine with it, so he can find one of them. And Alli wants a man who does none of that. She can find a man who does none of that. And I think she made the right choice in not picking Anton, okay? And in Alli's confessional, she tells us that Anton just wasn't forthcoming about who he really was, and being with him in the real life threw everything off. And in Anton's confessional, he says that he doesn't know if it's because of looks or because of the vibes, but all he's done is care for her, and this really sucks. And I'm sorry, but the fact that he says maybe it's because of looks or vibes, and he fails to mention any of the actual disagreements that they've had about money or his drinking, lets me know that he is well aware that the no ain't have shit to do with looks or vibes. He knows better, okay? So child, now it is time for KB and Edmond, and I wanted to fast forward through this scene so bad, because I'm like, girl, how are we even at this altar? And if you say yes, I'm gonna scream. But of course I couldn't fast forward because I'm watching for y'all. So did you hit subscribe? Did you hit like? Did you hype up the video? Because I am here raising my blood pressure watching these people for y'all, okay? Thank you very much. But child, when KB arrives, she's all crying and she's emotional. We see Edmond crying and he's telling us that he never had a love like this, okay? More on that in a few. So when I saw that KB didn't even do her hair, when I saw that KB didn't do her hair over, I was like, she's not serious. She's not serious. And it doesn't matter if she does her own hair or not, because a lot of us do our own hair, but she didn't even redo it. And I was like, yeah, she's saying no at the altar. But then later we see that someone did come and touch it up. So I was like, okay, maybe she's gonna say yes. So we see KB's mom. She goes and she visits Edmond and she asks him who else is coming. He says his rollerblading community and a couple of his teachers are coming. His dad is also at the wedding. And I wish that we got a scene with them together and we got to see them have a conversation, but unfortunately we didn't. But we also learned that his mom couldn't make it. And baby, when he said that, I was like, and why not? Why not? Did she go back to Ghana or something? Because Edmond is really upset about this. And he says she had a couple of personal things to take care of, so I'm not sure. I don't believe it for 1 second. See, now, if KB really wanted to be with Edmond, I feel like that would have been a horrible start. Because, baby, how you gonna miss the wedding and then come talking about you want to put beads on me and take me to Ghana with you? And you ain't even come to the wedding? No, ma'am. Okay. But KB's mom was very sweet, and she tells Edmond not to let that ruin his mood for the day because the people who are supposed to be here are here. And I thought that that was really nice of her. She gave him some very kind words in that moment where he was missing his mom. And I love to see moms come through and step into that role when the other person's mom isn't there. I will never forget the scene where Mama Bliss was telling Zach that she'll be his mom. So sweet. That's one of my favorite Love is Blind scenes. Anyway, we see Edmond's first grade teacher, and knowing that he was in and out of foster care, he tells us that she was like his guardian angel during that time. She would tutor him. She would feed him. Such an amazing woman. And shout out to all of the teachers who go above and beyond for their students. Y'all are so important, and y'all don't get paid enough. We know this, but you can see the lasting effects that teachers have. I still remember my teachers from elementary school all the way to my professors in college. Lasting effects. Y'all do not get paid enough, okay? But you can see that she was so proud of Edmond, and she's more than happy to be there to support him on this special day. And seeing all of the life that she was speaking into Edmond made me annoyed all over again, because where the hell is his mama? Where is she? Granted, maybe she's really dealing with some personal things. Okay, I guess. But girl, you better be in jail. You better be locked up in jail, because have you not missed enough? Oh, okay. I'm done, because y'all know, as far as being a partner and husband, like I said before, I don't see it for Edmond at all. But as a person by himself, I feel like Edmond is a kind little sweetie pie, just a little booger eating ball of joy, okay? And that lady should have been there for his special day. I really hated that Edmond didn't have any family with him, because I feel like that is just the story of his life, right? But anyway, we see his teacher walk him down the aisle. Edmond, I gotta ask you a question, sir. Why did you not get a lineup? And why is that pic still in your head, baby? What? It don't even matter. Okay, so we see him and KB share a warm embrace when they get to the altar. They're sharing I love yous. They're complimenting each other. They're staring into each other's eyes. Edmond gives a heartfelt vow on how much he loves KB and how much he's ready and willing to learn and grow for her, and how well he's gonna do under pressure. Okay, and the way that KB started her vows, it was already giving, let me let you down easy, because she wasn't talking about them as a couple. She was talking about Edmond's story and how much he's overcome and how proud she is of him and everything that he's taught her in this experience. So Edmond says yes, like we all thought he would. And now it's time for KB. And after a long pause, she starts crying and she's shaking her head, and Edmond lets out an audible cry of pain. It was like a, ugh. Like I felt it, okay? She apologizes and she lets him know that he deserves to be with someone who is 100% about him at the altar, and she's just not there yet. And she wants him to know that her no doesn't mean that she doesn't love him. And I do feel like KB cares about Edmond and loves him as a person and as her person in this experience. But do I feel like she loves and respects him as a partner and a husband, like I've been saying, and I'm gonna scream it all day long? Not at all, okay? KB is still trying to comfort him and she's apologizing, but they do tell each other that they respect each other no matter what. And Edmond continues to tell KB how good she looks and he truly fell in love with her for who she was on the inside, but the outside was a definite plus. KB tells Edmond that he has the best body that she's ever seen, and she also tells him that he's amazing and he's enough, but she has to honor her intuition and that doubt that she's feeling. And the decision did not come lightly. KB, you knew that you did not want to be with Edmond way before this, baby. Way before this. You should have broken up with Edmond way before this. Come on now, okay? So they walk out hand in hand, and I thought that that was cute. KB lets Edmond know that this isn't the end for them, and she's not writing him off, because he did ask her, like, oh, maybe we can continue this down the road. And I get that KB doesn't want to come off as mean, but girl, you are not dating Edmond down the road either. Give him his no and set this man free, okay? But this was another no that was the best for both people involved. These two need different things from each other. They don't communicate well, and I don't think that the physical attraction is there on Calibria's end at all. All right. So when they separate, KB is telling her family and friends that she made her decision, but she still feels bad because she didn't want to hurt Edmond. But she knows that if she said yes, she would have been miserable in that marriage. And when she says that, she feels so bad. Did y'all hear what her mother said? Her mom said, you should never feel bad for choosing yourself. And I said, yeah. I said that's a word, because at times we know what's best for us. And I'm not even talking about KB, just in life. We know what the best decision is for us to make for ourselves. But sometimes we don't make that decision because we don't want to hurt other people. But sometimes you got to be selfish. Sometimes you got to choose yourself and not apologize for it. Don't feel bad for it. Okay. Meanwhile, we see Edmond's teacher comforting him, and she lets him know that God has other plans. And KB just wasn't a diamond. Maybe she was a sapphire, but she wasn't a diamond. I said, okay, little Miss Teacher lady, not too too much. Not too much. You don't got to be shady, okay? But listen to this. Edmond says that this was his last chance because he has tried everything else. And that made me feel really bad for Edmond. I hate that he even has that vision on life. I don't think that that's the case. I think that Edmond can definitely find someone. That someone just wasn't KB. And I also feel like what Edmond is really upset about, what he's really upset about is that this is yet another woman leaving him. This is yet another woman abandoning him. I don't think that his sadness and pain is coming from KB necessarily. I don't think that Edmond was madly in love with KB, but I feel like what he was in love with is the idea of having a woman who is with him and who won't leave him, right? And that is 1,000%, 1,000,000% understandable given his childhood. But Edmond has a whole lot to unpack before he is ready to be anyone's husband. The same way that a man can wreak havoc on the life of an unhealed woman, child, let an evil woman get a hold of Edmond. Let an evil woman get a hold of Edmond, put that coochie on him, tell him he's perfect, sing his praises, and she'll have him out here robbing banks and shit, okay? Doing the unthinkable, okay? And I know that we have a soft spot for Edmond, but if your homegirl, sister, daughter, cousin called you and she was like, yo, I'm on a trip with this guy and he over here crying for coochie, y'all would tell her to dump him immediately. If this was in Am I the A-hole Reddit post, everyone would be up and through the comments saying, dump him, he is manipulative, that's dangerous, blah, 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 okay? Everything else would be irrelevant. What Edmond needs to do is go see the lady, work on his childhood trauma, work on not being avoidant in relationships, learn how to see when someone is just tolerating you, because KB was just tolerating you, okay? And I'm sure that that is what he is used to growing up in foster care. He's probably used to just being tolerated and not truly loved and appreciated. But in his confessional, he tells us that he really expected KB to say, I do. And I'm like, how? But he says that he gave his heart to her and he treated her the best. Now that is subjective, Edmond, but I do feel like Edmond is upset because he lost the life he envisioned, being able to have a relationship, have a wife, have children, because as we have seen on these shows, a lot of times people are not upset about the person saying no. They're just grieving the life that they envisioned. Okay. So that's that on them. Good luck to KB and Edmond. We'll see y'all at the reunion. So, child, next we are at home with Jordan and Megan. And I said, well, damn, y'all ain't even go to the wedding. So, look, they sit down for a chat and Megan says that she woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and she was an absolute mess. She says that she feels like her and Jordan are just two ships passing in the night and they're completely different people. But Jordan says that he doesn't see that. And then Megan starts listing all of the ways that they're different. And Jordan says, so what? And I said, ain't no so what? Because, baby, just yesterday when y'all had your conversation, you were making light of all of y'all's differences, right? And all of the differences in your day-to-day lives. So now she's agreeing with you. Don't say so what now. She's agreeing with you. Yeah. Keep that same energy. And he's like, oh, well, I don't think that that's a reason to say we're incompatible. I mean, if I had $1 million gazillion, I'd be able to do whatever with you. Okay, Jordan, but you don't. And this is where y'all are at. Y'all can't do the same things. You don't want to lower her lifestyle and she doesn't want to have you living above your means. But finances aside, all she's asking you for is communication. She just wants to talk to you. She just wants to know about your day. She just wants to do things with you. You don't want to do any of that. You don't want to talk to her. And the fact that Jordan keeps mentioning money is very telling. He is insecure about his finances. And if these two were to get married, it would only increase those insecurities. And I say this all the time. Money is not everything, but don't ever let a motherfucker tell you that it's not important, because it is. And we often see that a lot of men cannot handle being with a woman who makes more money than them. As cool as they say they are with it, most are insecure about it, because like Jordan said, Megan's past relationship didn't work with the billionaires who she dated in the past, but that does not mean that just because she dates you and you don't have money, it's gonna work out, right? And y'all are just gonna ride off into the sunset. It's the same narrative that you hear, oh, girls only like the bad boys or the guys with money, and they overlook the lame guys and the broke guys, as if an awkward, lame, broke, facially challenged man cannot be just as toxic and traumatizing as the good-looking bad boy. Like, right? Hello. So Megan also talks about not dating someone with a child before, and you can see it on Jordan's face that he looks very irritated at this conversation. And all I can think about is, y'all knew all of this shit in the pods. Y'all discussed the kids and the money in the pods. Y'all knew that this was not going to work in the pods. And Jordan says, I just don't know why you chose me in the pods when I told you that you would have to make sacrifices to be with me. And Megan says that she didn't know how hard it would be. And he tells her, look, most people would love to be in your spot, but I mean, like, you have like 5 years on me. You're like 5 years older than me. And I felt like that was shade. I felt like that was shade. But ultimately, Megan tells Jordan that she still has reservations and that's not how she wants to feel going into a wedding or marriage. Megan apologizes to not being compassionate enough to Jordan and for not giving him what he needed in a fiance. But as much as she loves him, she just can't do this anymore. And we see Jordan sitting in silence and we see a tear fall while Megan tells him that she just didn't want to put him through the whole wedding just to say no at the altar. She thanks him for introducing her to Luca. And she also says that she understands that she's not just saying no to Jordan in this moment, but it will affect Luca as well. Now, I know Jordan's baby mama was like, see why I didn't want my son on camera for this foolishness, for this mess, okay? So after she says all of that, Jordan says that he doesn't really have anything to say and he's about to go pick up Luca from school. They hug. She says, I'm sorry, I love you. He says nothing. But in his confessional, he says that he doesn't think that they're different. It's just their lifestyle. And she makes enough money to not have to work another day in her life. And he doesn't. And even the way that he's saying this in his confessional, you can hear it in his voice. He has a problem with this and he's resentful about it. And it is clear that Jordan is looking for someone to just fall into his life, be there for him and Luca. No extra conversations, no dates, no getting to know you. Like what? Like a nanny? Like a nanny, okay? And I think the same way that Meg knew that she did not want to be with a man who has kids in the pods, Jordan knew that he was insecure about his current financial situation, especially in comparison to Megan's money. Like I said in previous reviews, that is why he didn't want to tell her how many bedrooms he had in his apartment. And after he found out that Megan was balling, he didn't want to tell her that he was tatted up in fear that she wouldn't choose him because she doesn't like tattoos. So for Jordan to leave this conversation and say, oh, we're not that different, and she knew about my kid in the pods as if that's it, is very telling. What about your role in this breakup, Jordan? Did you ever tell her that you won't be going out to eat and you won't be having conversations with her at the end of the day when you were in the pods? Did you tell her that even though you have shared custody, you're going to act as if you have zero free time to do things with her, being your future wife? I see Megan making an effort to find a home in a good school district. She's meeting your son. She's trying to have conversations with you. She wants to be included in your life, and you are so bent up about not being able to keep up with her lifestyle. You are missing the fact that she's trying her best to bring you into it, to share it with you, but you're not even trying to compromise at all. Jordan also says that he feels like if he had enough money to have the free time and same lifestyle, that they would be getting married. I think so too, because I think that if you had more money, you would be less unpleasant. You would be less unpleasant. You're not happy with your finances and it's coming through in your personality. You're no longer a joy to be around because you are unhappy, okay? And I'm not saying that people have to make the same amount of money in a relationship in order for it to be successful, but from what we can see, their financial situations are vastly different to the point where it's clear that it will come up a lot in day-to-day situations and conversations. So Jordan says that his one regret is introducing Megan to Luca, and he says that he feels like she doesn't love him for who he is. You are the one who brought your ass on a show, on a dating show, on an expedited dating show, knowing that you had a kid. Because what woman would not want to meet their potential stepchild before getting married? That's 100% on you. That's 100% on you, okay? I know that love is important, but that is not all it takes for a marriage to survive, especially in this economy. And I think that Megan did love Jordan, but she's looking at the entire situation. She's looking at him being a father. She's looking at him not communicating with her, and she's looking at the financial part of it, which is a smart thing to do. Also, Megan having the money that she has, she needs to think about her assets and what she can possibly lose by marrying Jordan. And if the situation was reversed and Jordan was the one with the money, I wouldn't fault him for thinking about his finances before marrying her either. And in Megan's confessional, she's being really honest, and she says that she didn't think through how challenging it would be to be with Jordan and Luca, and she started to see that she would have had to make so many concessions to her current lifestyle for this to work. And I feel like you knew that in the pods too, Meg, but we can also see that Jordan made it harder because he wasn't compromising much, right? He wasn't trying to meet you halfway. It was like, this is my life. Can you fit in it or not. But she says that this experience has even made her wonder if she can be a stepmom or even a mom. And I can understand that too, because if Megan likes to be in Aspen one weekend and then she's in Italy the next weekend, that is a huge change that she will have to make. But child, word on the curb is that Meg had a baby. That's the word on the curb. I don't know all the details, but I'm sure that y'all will fill me in the comments, okay? So aside from Jordan, Megan has a lot to think about, but she says that all she wanted from this experience was to find love and find her partner. And although she loves Jordan, he's just not her partner. And I agree. The last couple of scenes we got from Jordan were not of the same Jordan that we saw in the pods or even in the beginning of the honeymoon. I think that once the lifestyle differences became real for him and really started to set in, he started resenting Megan. That's my thoughts, okay, child? This is the first season of Love is Blind where we have 0 marriages, and I love that for all of us. I love it for all of us. Tell me what you thought about this season of Love is Blind, and what do you think about Love is Blind overall? I feel like the show, or at least the concept of this show, it's starting to run its course. I feel like the people who come on here truly looking for love probably make up like 4% of the people who apply. 4%, okay? And that's me being generous. That is me being generous. I'm still waiting on the golden Love is Blind. I'm still waiting on the queer Love is Blind, okay? We're still waiting. We'll see. Y'all gonna have to figure out something, okay? Nakisha and Katisha, figure something out. But that is the end of my review for episodes 11 and 12, the finale. Don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe before you leave. Make sure you hype up the video. And baby, I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Bye!